Hearthstone player is that you go around the world, like visit a lot of tournaments. You have a lot of fun. You always meet like your friends in different places of the world. Like it's just great.
I dedicate almost like I go to work and then I just play Hearthstone all day. Nothing else. I mean, I would do other things, but I love like the competitiveness of card games.
I've always been a competitive gamer in every game I've played. Ever since I started by playing something like Oregon Trail, I would race to the finish, compete against the other classmates who are like, I got there fastest. So it's just something that's in my blood.
I aim to disappoint and as always try to keep expectations low. So hopefully this tournament goes well.
Definitely think I could win. I mean, my mindset going in is that I'm the best player here. For sure, no doubt about it. There are obstacles, of course. There's a lot of great players. All of these guys qualified, but I'm extremely confident in my chances.
I've always been an underdog kind of guy. I like fighting for the small guy.
我不知道我能不能就是赢到最后，但是我希望我可以拿一个冠军回去，就我还蛮希望。
I can help prove myself to the community that I'm a player to be reckoned with. So I'm really looking forward to this match.
Live from Burbank, California, welcome back everybody to Day 3 of the ESL Hearthstone Legendary Series Season 2 Grand Finals. My name is Frodan and this day will be continuing on the epic tournament and conclusion to see who will take home $10,000 and 100 World Championship points. We've had 2 days of action thus far, and out of the 16 players, only 8 remain. Only one can be the glorious champion, as we will conclude today with 7 matches in a single elimination format. To break down what we'll see today, we have Demigod versus Domdus, 2 dark horses who have climbed to the top 8, along with Roger, who's been a titan of the open qualifiers recently, and PhoneTap, who miraculously defeated Silent Storm, Season 1 champion last night. In the bottom half of the bracket, it's filled with familiar names. We have KitKats versus Trump, the mayor of Valuetown, and Life Coach, who's been on top of his game recently, up against the king of Salttown himself, Reynad. I can't wait to see how that's going to happen. Did he wake up on time? Is he even here? We'll find out in just the next couple of hours. We also want to remind you guys about all the cool stuff that's going on, but before we do that, we recognize that some people here who have never watched Hearthstone, we're playing a best-of-5 conquest format. That means you have to win with each of your deck at least once, up to 3 wins. Every game is a blind pick, but as soon as you win with the game, that deck is eliminated and no longer eligible for the rest of the series. And of course, we also want to remind you guys about the prizing breakdown, as $10,000 is not only on the line here. We have $25,000 total. $5,000 for second, $2,200 for third and fourth, $1,000 for top 8, and $200 for top 16. Some of the players who have been eliminated will be casting today, so we will have a lot of the familiar faces here. It's not just our favorite 3 casters of Crypt, TJ, and Chalky, as well as Firebat 4, excuse me. We also want to tell you guys to stay engaged in the conversation, hashtag HLS, and let us know what you guys think by tweeting at ESL Hearthstone. That is the main Twitter account that we're using for this event, as well as this tournament series. So let us know, again, your favorite moments, how well we're dressed, some of your favorite things about the games in the series, and we'll maybe even feature them on the stream. While you're online, make sure to go to esl.gg/season2finals to get some awesome swag and giveaways that we're doing thanks to our sponsors, Gigabyte and Plantronics. A big shout out to them as they enable us to do the things that we love. And of course, Frodan vs. the World is still going on. I know a lot of people here showed up today primarily for that, just to beat me in Hearthstone and get some free packs. And if you're local to Burbank, one fan's really excited. Thank you very much. And if you're also local to the area, why not stop by and engage with us, play some Hearthstone, get some free cool food, and meet the players. There's still time, so hop on. Again, check it out at legendaryseries.com. And with that, why are we here to watch some great Hearthstone? So let's get to the first games. Let's go ahead and introduce our hosts. To start off the day, we have Azumo, Chalky, and Firebat.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Dan. And once again, welcome everybody to the Legendary Series Season 2 Finals. My name is TJ. I'm joined by Chalky and Firebat. How are you guys doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Really excited to see this final day and crown a champion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me as well. Really excited to be here. We got a great group of players, and I can't wait to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, for sure. The 8 players that are playing today, I would not be disappointed if any of these guys take the crown of the Season 2 championship. So the first matchup of the day is actually going to be Demigod versus Domdus. To give you guys a brief history of these players, both of these guys made it through the last chance qualifier. Demigod was one of the players that made it out in the very first round. He went undefeated in his run to the last chance. Domdus was a player that we actually saw earlier on in one of the regular season weeks, but he didn't end up taking it, so it's sort of a Cinderella story for him as well. What do you guys think of these two players?
Yeah, I was really impressed with both of these players in their matches. Demigod really came out and shocked everyone by just sweeping Group A. I think a lot of people expected maybe Trump to take that group, and he ended up coming in second. But Demigod 2-0 with a lineup he considers really strong against Handlock. We also saw it was crushing some Hunters. So really looking for a strong performance from him in this match. And Domdus, of course.
Yeah, it's interesting that he was being able to crush Hunters with the lineup, but unfortunately for him, there's only 4 out of the 8 players that have Hunter, and his opponent today does not have a Hunter. So it might play out a little differently for him. So we'll just have to see how that goes.
Yeah, when I was talking to him earlier in the week, Demigod was telling me he brought his lineup to actually do well against Handlock. There were some cards in there where we were kind of confused and saying, oh, well, Seal of Light and his Paladin, does that really help you against the Handlock matchup? 2 extra burst, maybe? I don't even know. But Domdus does have a Handlock in his lineup. So that could be a good for him. But as far as the lineups match up, I think it's going to be pretty even.
Yeah, but this matchup really not going to be in Demigod's favor, especially with the Wild Growth in Domdus' opening hand.
Yeah, Wild Growth is definitely the card you want to see early game. Going to give you extra mana throughout the course of the game to really make powerful plays. But with the Wild Growth, you also need some solid mid-game creatures to really benefit from that mana, and right now he doesn't have it. So maybe a bit of a slow start even with the Wild Growth.
Yeah, we always talk about how mid-range Druid, lots of emotes coming out.
Wow.
Pretty playful for such a high-stakes match.
Yeah. These guys have been talking backstage a lot. They've become really good friends over the course of the
I think they
past
just
couple
cycled
days.
through all 6 simultaneously. Oh, but an extra threaten.
Yeah. Who's going to get the last emote in?
Yeah, that's the real question.
Yeah.
When does a Squelch come out here, TJ?
I don't know. Firebat, you're our resident Squelch expert.
Yeah, I don't like squelching my opponent. I think you can benefit a lot from trying to read the emotes. But I don't know about in this case. It seems just to be playful in general.
I think they plan this.
Yeah.
Demigod is one of the few players in the tournament to actually, I think he's the only player to bring Dragon Control Warrior. He runs the Ysera, Alexstrasza, and Nefarian as his 3 dragons. Of course, with the Black Ring Corruptors that we saw. Firebat, what do you think of this deck overall?
Overall, I'm not a huge fan of Dragon Warrior, mainly because Patron is just so strong that it makes it really hard to fit in the Dragon Warrior. But if your goal is to counter Handlock, obviously Patron's not the correct warrior choice. So he's got a solid plan in mind, and that's why he went with this choice.
Yeah, we talk a lot about how the mid-range Druid is really favored against Control Warrior, and we almost talk about it as if it's like an auto win. But like Firebat said, to go along with that Wild Growth, you do need some mid-game creatures. He's going to need to draw into maybe like Ancient Lores coming into this late game, and Demigod has a lot of early game with the Despite and 4 early game minions. Domdus is going to challenge it immediately with the Sylvanas, which is going to slow Demigod down a lot, though.
Yeah, well, it's not the most effective Sylvanas in the world, though, because that's just taking down 2 Armor Smiths.
Right, and with the Innervate, it's basically going to be a 2 for 2.
Well, and half a weapon charge, but yes.
Right. And if you're the warrior, I don't think you can be too upset about your opponent like having to throw out Sylvanas like this, you know. Not the strongest start for the Druid.
Yeah, I'd be really happy to see this situation. Sylvanas is one of those cards that later in the game can be a huge problem trying to clear it and develop a board sort of situation, because it can really inhibit the way you can react on the board.
What's going through your head as the warrior player here? What are you looking for? You know you're in an unfavorable matchup. Is it about pressure? Is it about just trying to sit back and grind them out till the end?
It's about a bit of both. I think what Demigod was really looking for before that Sylvanas came out was develop as many minions as I can, play these Cruel Taskmasters to get some value. I've got Despite to back them up, and just try to pressure the Druid, because Druid really lacks a way to control a huge board. But now that it's kind of like this, where his hand is a bit more reactive, I think he's looking to kind of go towards a late game, stall him out, get some armor with Shield Maiden, set up some taunts, and hope that the Druid's hand kind of fizzles out, which, as we can see, I mean, besides Wrath, doesn't have much draw option in it.
Yeah, but that Drake for the Druid was really key. Anything that cycles is just huge, because you're going to take a resource away from the warrior here, which will be probably the Death Spite. while also replenishing your hand with another card to use.
And you're also forcing him to take damage, which at the end of the day gets you closer and closer to being able to close out the game with combos. So,
yeah, he had a lot of good draws there, but yeah, I agree with Firebat. Drake was specifically really good for him. Helps him cycle through his deck to be on curve more later, and soaks up that second charge of weapon, which is actually not too bad for him.
so what are you usually cutting in the deck to fit in the dragons? Ysera and Alexstrasza are fit into a lot of warrior decks, but Nefarian and the Blackwing Corruptors.
Oh, wow. Emperor Thorson off the top is insane here, and there is an answer for Demigod. You can tell he's still not happy about that.
Yeah.
Going back to cutting for the dragons, basically you're just kind of changing up your top end of the deck. So stuff like Ragnaros, potentially Dr. Boom, though I'd still expect that to be in the deck. Baron Geddon could be a potential cut. Just stuff like that. Basically you have, about 5 slots for your in-game bombs, and 3 of those are taken up by dragons in this deck.
Yeah, and then for the Blackwing Corruptors, there's oftentimes only one Belcher in the Dragon Warrior, and then they usually cut like Lotheb or one of the other 5-drops for the other one.
Yeah, sometimes Harrison can be a cut, though we've seen a lot of players favoring that in this metagame.
Yeah, I would be really surprised if Harrison was cut.
Yeah.
Domdus, one of the few players to bring Druid to this tournament to actually take Zombie Chow. He was expecting a lot more aggro, I suppose. Most Druid players think that the Zombie Chow is too much of a liability against control decks to increase your matchup slightly against aggro.
Yeah, sometimes the community and even in casting games, you'll hear, aggro decks get a lot of flack, but in this tournament, I don't think we really have a single aggro deck in the top 8. The Zoos in the tournament, the Mech Shaman. Well, we do have a Mech Shaman from Phone Tap, but the aggro hunters all lost. We're down to very slow mid-rangey hunters, handlocks only, basically. And so from this point on, Zombie Chow, really not a card you want to have in your deck. Kind of acts as a blank for the Druid player in this matchup.
Yeah.
So now here, looks like he's going to play Emperor. Kind of risky. He could have went for the safer play to try and clear, but the disadvantage of going for the safer play is he's not going to be developing anything else this turn. So I really like taking the risk here and just going with the Emperor so that you're at least doing something with your turn other than just reacting.
Yeah.
Allows him to play Nefarian next turn.
It does.
Maybe get a Force of Nature and a Savage Roar.
Yeah, if you're playing Nefarian in the warrior spot, you're always a little afraid of getting tempoed out by a big game hunter. But we know Domdus doesn't have that quite yet. So an 8-8 will really help him secure the board. And if you look at the warrior's health, he's still sitting pretty good at 33. And like we talked about, Druid not really mounting a lot of pressure, has a lot of reactive cards in his hand.
Yep.
Druid spells are pretty decent. There's some ones that miss a lot, like Moonfire. If you will get double Moonfire from Nefarian.
Yeah, Nefarian, I think a lot of players basically consider that as you're pretty likely to get one good card.
Yeah. Most of the Druid cards cycle, which is really good. You have like Starfire, which cycles, then you have Wild Growth and Wrath, which all cycle. So even if the card itself isn't that great, it has that cycle effect attached to it, which is really strong in Warrior.
Yeah. We could see him decide not to go for the Nefarian here. Kind of afraid again of that big game hunter. Maybe wants to clear the 4-6 and develop a Sludge Belcher or a Shield Maiden.
Yeah.
The opponent's board isn't that great here.
Well,
and is there a threat of combo is the main question.
Yeah.
And there is.
Yeah, he knows his opponent still has the coin, so even if Emperor didn't hit any of the combo cards, then it could.
Well, and he's just going into 9 mana.
Yeah.
Because of Wild Growth.
Oh, yeah, Wild.
So, Demigod has a lot to be worried about with the Nefarian play. I think it would be really bold to do. It might be a really good winning line, though.
Yeah, because what other play does he have that really catches him up on board?
Yeah, I mean, the 2/2 Cruel Taskmaster will die pretty much for free.
Yeah.
Sludge Belcher and Shield Maiden, both kind of bulky onto this board if you execute the 4-6. But
yeah, it's just not enough, I don't think.
And when you're playing in an unfavorable matchup, it's usually better to make the play to win instead of the play to not lose.
Well, I would be very... Yeah.
I like this a lot.
I actually like this play, and it looks like he got a Moonfire. Yep.
Oh, no.
He was...
Tree of Life!
Yeah. You could tell he either got a Moonfire and an Innervate because the in-turn button did not go green.
Those
not
are
good.
There's no cycle.
Well, he can kill something for free now.
Tree
instead
of
for 1 mana
Life
with the execute.
could end up being okay later on. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, right. Like,
I mean,
if you come to the point, we saw just the other day, Domdus was actually the warrior, and his opponent was playing druid. I believe it was lead paint. He was one off of lethal constantly. If you Tree of Life yourself back up as the warrior, I mean, if
oh my
wow.
god, look at
Off
that top deck.
Wow.
The top.
That is disgusting. He's going to need a brawl or something to be able to catch up from this board state. Because he is way behind now.
Yeah, Brawl is one of the best draws here now.
The thing about Tree of Life, though, is you have to spend an entire turn doing
yep.
it. Unless you're going to pick off something with 1 health, with Moonfire also.
Well, you can execute something.
You can execute
Moonfire
with the Moonfire
execute.
for
There you
0
go.
mana. So well, that is important to consider. He could play Ysera, Moonfire, and execute this turn. He did see last turn his opponent didn't have a lot of damage, but he would die doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, how much damage is it if his opponent just has Savage Roar in his hand? Because it's pretty reasonable
It's a
just
lot.
to play
Well,
around Savage Roar.
12 damage from Savage Roar with just this board.
Yeah.
If you execute, the Savage Roar is 10, and your opponent already has 12 on board, so you would be dead. But he's going to go for that anyway, it looks like.
Well,
Potentially.
he hesitated.
Yeah, he definitely reconsidered there.
He was
But-
shaking his head.
You know, even though this leaves him dead, I think it might be one of his best ways to win is to get Ysera Awakens off this and try to stabilize next turn. This will leave him dead, of course.
Yeah, I mean, but it's an unfavorable matchup. These are the risks you have to take, and he tried to take the risk last turn. It didn't pay off for him, and now he's getting punished for it.
All right, well, Domdus is going to take game number 1 in the first series of the day.
Yeah,
Top deck BGH.
Demigod looks a little shaken up off that, but, you know, I actually did like his play in that match. He was willing to take risk, which is something that's pretty hard to do in your first live event. Just to be like, yeah, I'm dead to a card, but this is my best play.
It was cool to see. I was talking a little bit about it earlier. These guys had sort of that open bracket camaraderie going on.
Yeah.
Backstage.
Yeah.
I overheard them talking. They were saying, it kind of sucks that we had to play each other in the round of 8 because both of us don't get a chance to maybe meet in the finals or something like that. But they were both really happy, really excited. I said they'd become friends over the course of the weekend, so it's always good to see that. And you could see them being playful with the emotes at the beginning and smiling at the top deck BGH, which other players may not have done
Yeah, it
in that
might not be
situation.
as friendly in some of these later matches.
Yeah, definitely. It's really what Hearthstone's all about, right? Making friends, having fun. It's a game after all.
We're
Yeah.
just playing some card games. You know. As Lead Paint said, he's flying to California to play a virtual trading card game. So,
Indeed.
pretty good life.
Yeah.
Domdus still has the handlock and his own warrior to find a win with. And I believe Domdus was one of the other players running Control Warrior.
Yep,
If I'm not
he
mistaken.
is, which makes this a good matchup for Demigod, even though if you see the Paladin Warrior classes, you tend to think, oh no, about to get Patron. But
Yeah.
no Patron in this match. So Demigod, after a rough first matchup, gets a pretty good one in this second game.
Yeah, and he's going to have more good matchups to follow, generally speaking, because his entire lineup was designed to beat handlock, is what he said.
Right.
And Domdus does have the handlock, so he should still probably be pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
It also depends how his Demigod's, I think, the only player to run Freeze Mage. So
He
that
is.
could line up really badly. Domdus has Druid and Warrior, which are arguably the two.
Well,
Yeah.
Druid's
Druid
already
already
out.
won, yeah. But
So-
he doesn't want that to match up against the
Yeah,
Warrior.
the most important win for Domdus here is his handlock, and he's saving it for last. He wants to get a 2-0 lead, maybe put Demigod into, you know, like a bad state of mind, and then you're at that point we've talked about where you get 3 chances. You got to be feeling pretty good at that point.
Yeah.
And even if you don't have a great matchup for each of your matches, you're still favored to win when you're up 2-0.
Yeah.
Yeah. The handlock's one of those decks, too, that can get a win against anything. Sometimes you just
Yeah.
get the dream start, and you're just like giant,
Right.
giant,
And
kill him.
And Fyra, you play a lot of Freeze Mage. Personally, I don't think, you know, Freeze Mage really auto wins against handlock. It's quite a close matchup.
It's never really an auto win, so yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be pretty close. I don't know how Kona Cold really plays out in that matchup. I don't typically run that.
Yeah.
So Domdus runs, Demigod with his Paladin runs double equality with the Pyromancer. So that indicates that he is going against Handlock heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yep.
So that's going to be pretty solid against Handlock.
We'll have to see how it does against Warrior, though. Control Paladin in the past has tended to be favored against Warrior. And we do know that this is more of a heal-it-in, as some players have called it, where lots of heals probably won't be dying anytime soon.
Yeah.
So Warrior's going to have to go for a pretty long-term plan, try to get a lot of value, and outlast these constant tokens that the Paladin can make.
Well, the hard thing about the long-term plan, though, is the Paladin hero power just beats the Control Warrior hero power as time continues.
Yeah.
Yep. The Paladin is in no rush to kill the Warrior, which makes armor not very relevant. In a late game, 1/1s will outvalue it.
Let me think.
Yeah, you mentioned the sort of healed in Seal of Light plus the Guardian. He's got ridiculous amounts of heal in the deck, so.
I like going for the Quencher Silver here to kill the Acolyte and deny as much draw as possible. You could have like owled it, but I don't like that as much because one, it kind of gives up board a little bit, and two, you kind of want to save that for bigger threats like Sylvanas later game.
Yeah, the True Silver coining it out also plays a little bit around Harrison Jones if Domdus were to have that. And Demigod actually drew his own Harrison Jones, which is bound to get value against a Warrior.
Yeah.
Just kind of a question of when do you use it. I don't believe Domdus was the player with the Gorehowl in his list, but if he was, I would expect Demigod to know this from analyzing his videos.
Yeah, and then just save Harrison Jones until Gorehowl hits the board.
I actually think it was Domdus.
Was it? Okay.
Right. Gorehowl.
Gorehowl is one of those cards that can actually swing this matchup if it doesn't get Harrison Jones.
Yeah, that's kind of an awkward thing too, is, you know, are you, if say a Despite came out pretty soon, are you willing to hold on to that Harrison Jones, give up value, maybe take a really suboptimal play because you realize later you're going to need it?
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the turns, whereas the Paladin, this is like we were talking about, you could take it really slow.
Yeah.
You know, don't have to overcommit to anything. Your hero power is really good in this matchup. Not many whirlwind effects from the Control Warrior. You can just press hero power, kill off that Armor Smith, and say go.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Like, you have the Wild Pyromancer and both Consecrates, so you have enough activators for equality, but there's still no reason to play it. Like, your 3/2's not going to pressure them at all. You don't have any sort of game plan that's going to involve killing them anytime soon.
Yep. Basically just gives them better targets for weapons. So unless he really wants to Harrison next turn, yeah, I wouldn't like to see a Wild Pyromancer come out this turn.
Yeah, just a hero power trade and pass.
Of course, he's going to think over all the possibilities, really taking his time, making sure he's got his long-term plan set.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest matchup for both of these players in their entire Hearthstone careers.
Yeah, this is the biggest event they've been to, and they're really looking to make a name for themselves in their first appearances.
Alexstrasza doesn't help much yet.
Yeah.
And with the sort of Healadin, it doesn't feel like the Warrior's going to be able to find an opportunity to like Alex into a Grom kill.
One of the main things for the Paladin is to have a heal for when after you get Alexstrasza, just to make sure you're safe from getting rushed down. That is one of the ways you can lose. But with extra heal in Demigod's deck, we talked about the Seal of Light.
Yeah.
Might even have Guardian of Kings in his list. You'll have plenty of healing to use for the post Alexstrasza. Hopefully he has an Aldor, a big game hunter, maybe a quality to deal with the Alexstrasza itself. But basically Demigod's just looking to make sure he doesn't lose to any, like rush down from the Warrior. Because he's pretty confident in a long game.
So here, Domdus has the opportunity to either Belcher or Cruel Taskmaster. Cruel Taskmaster is the better value play because Belcher simply just dies to the True Silver in the 1/1. Then even like the 2/1 just finishes it off, so it takes no stake on the board. So it's actually kind of a hard decision if you want to throw that out there just to try and reset the board leading into your next turn when you don't have another minion to play, or if you want to just take the game slow. But the Paladin wants you to take the game slow.
Right. Owl or Seal of Light can kind of save some of Demigod's board here, but he really has to weigh how much he values a 2/1 because, like Firebat has said, you're not on a kill him plan. You know that warrior's not dying anytime soon. They have plenty of armor gain in their deck. And how much does a 2-1 realistically mean to you?
Yeah, I don't think it means anything. I think you just clear off the Belcher and then just hero power.
Yeah, he's definitely thinking about it. And
I could see the Wild Pyromancer coming down too. You definitely do not owl. You need that owl for Sylvanas or any other death rattle minions.
We talked about why you wouldn't want a Wild Pyromancer earlier, and I think this turn, like Firebat said, it could be a little better just to kind of keep the board as much as possible. Helps in addition to a 1-1.
Yeah, also the thing is the Belcher just kind of going into a board state where it dies immediately is sort of signaling that you're trying to clean up the board to lead into something.
Right.
So
potentially like a Shield Maiden could come out this turn, and a 1-1 really wouldn't challenge it well with what's in Demigod's hand.
Yeah. And another point that you guys mentioned, he also already has activators for equality if he needs those. He's got both Consecrates in his hand, so he can be liberal with the Wild Pyromancer. He can use it as just a 3-2 body to try and keep up that pressure.
And now I think a really important thing here is...
Yeah, I like just armoring, saving the Cruel Taskmaster as an execute activator. He doesn't have any other execute activators in his hand, so it's really key just to always kind of have one.
So we've talked about what the Paladin wants to do this matchup. But what does the Warrior want to do? We said it's hard for him to find a 1-turn kill or a 2-turn kill with Alexstrasza plus Grom. Are you just trying to grind him out and hopefully you win eventually in the late game, or just pressure him as much as you can?
Yeah, those are the two strategies. There's one, which is just try to grind him out, go into the late game as much as possible. And then the other strategy is to apply tons of pressure, force them to use their heals early, and then after they heal up, then Alex them and then go in for the Grom kill.
Right. I think you're really, as the Warrior, you're looking to kind of feel out the hand context of the Paladin. Every time you make a play, you have to be very aware of how your opponent's reacting and try to guess what's in their hand based off that. Like, these turns the Demigod is just hero powered, that kind of signals to Domdus, okay, my opponent doesn't have very good cards in his hand. Those are all very reactive cards, so stuff like Consecration is within his range. His high drops, maybe like Tyrion, as we see Dr. Boom.
And heals.
Right, and heals. And so that tells you, if I go for an aggressive plan, there's a very good chance he just has answers. Whereas if you go for kind of the more grindy plan, maybe, you know, his situational cards don't line up that well.
Yeah.
So it does have a lot more to do with kind of like just reading how you think the game's going to go.
Do you like holding on to the Harrison there, Firebat?
If he runs Gorehowl, then definitely.
Yeah, I think this goes back to what we talked about with the Gorehowl, and that's a really big Acolyte of Pain pickup.
This is a huge top deck.
One of the key cards in Control Warrior is Acolyte.
Right. You can find yourself running out of cards if you don't draw.
There's that Gorehowl.
And that's actually good for Demigod, because the longer he wouldn't have drawn Gorehowl, the more likely Demigod would be to get complacent and say, okay, maybe I will take a Despite. Or like he plays a 2-charge Fire Roar, actually, okay, 2 cards is pretty good.
Yeah,
and we could even see Domdus try to bait out the Harrison.
We could see him just try and like YOLO it and say like, I hope you don't have Harrison yet, and just play the Gorehowl, because it is an unfavorable matchup, and that's a risk that would be reasonable to take.
Yeah.
Gorehowl would have been better off drawn later on, where the game's starting to get grindy. You know that he's already played the Harrison Jones. Because later on, when both players are running out of cards, and you all of a sudden you pop Gorehowl, it's like, oh my goodness, like the next 6-7 creatures that I play are just going to get eaten up by this thing.
Yeah.
So this is like a really big decision point.
I think it's got to be Gorehowl, right?
Well, he has all these other weapons. He can try and go for the grindy plan.
He could Shield Slam and play a different weapon and try and feel out to see if the Harrison's there. I think an important note was Demigod took a long time on turn 5 earlier. After that Despite came down, it was pretty clear he was thinking about something.
Yeah, he's going to go for the grindy plan here and not play the Gorehowl.
Wow.
He's not even going to use the Shield Slam.
Really big read from him.
These players have been watching each other play for 2 days now and talking about their decks and going over their deck choices. So both of these players know, or should know, exactly what's in their opponent's deck. So there's a lot of different strategy that goes into it now. They've had the same decks across the whole tournament, so he has to have in the back of his mind, Domdus that is, that Demigod does have the Harrison, and he's thinking, how is it going to punish me the most? And that's if you just play Gorehowl
definitely
on turn 8 just to clear something off.
Yeah. Demigod's been having a lot of weak turns, so he knows there's a lot of situational cards in his hand.
Yep.
So it's a solid read by him, and that's why I think he's choosing the grindy approach rather than trying to YOLO the Gorehowl out there and be more aggressive.
Yeah, I think if you don't see Tyrion this turn, that also takes another card out of his range. When you know these 5 cards to the left are all pretty situational or high drop cards,
yeah,
you can take each one out of the range. Each time it's a good play and they don't play it, you know it's pretty much not there.
Yeah, so he's going to know for sure that he doesn't have Tyrion in his hand, so then he has to assume there's at least one equality combo, and maybe even like AGH or something.
Yeah, we actually see like all the situational
there's every
cards
single one in his hand.
except the heals. Oh, and Domdus was the player with 2 brawls.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good in this matchup, and I think it's actually pretty good here.
I think this was the deck they were talking about. Seems like it's really great against Patron.
Right.
Because the double brawl and the super like removal focused.
Sure. He's going to go with Shield Slam instead of Brawl.
Okay.
Try and get more value out of the Brawl.
Yeah, decides he can wait.
Sure. I don't know, I kind of would have liked to see the Brawl there, since you know your opponent has so many situational cards in their hand since they haven't been playing any minions.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Demigod runs Muster for battle.
He definitely runs Muster for battle, I hope.
Well, it's
He
not
definitely runs it, I hope.
It's not standard in Control Paladin builds. It's standard maybe as a
It's
one-up.
a pretty good card. I'll tell you that, TJ.
I don't know if
he's
we've
thinking
seen
about
it.
Gorehowl.
And then, wow.
I did not like this turn at all.
That's going to a museum.
Yeah, that's huge setback for him.
Wow. This is nearly an automatic.
Oh my god,
Harrison
and the
Jones.
top deck too.
This is really great for Demigod because, like we've been talking about, his hand's been getting really situational, really, like, what more can you do? And perfect Boombot.
Well played.
Throws out a well played.
That's brutal. The Boombot kills a minion, and then you put the Gorehowl in the museum and draw Tyrion. Like, icing on the cake. And you use all 9 mana efficiently if you drop the Shredder.
Well, he could just hero power here.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that too, but...
I mean, you've gotten rid of the Gorehowl. You're very healthy. You've got all the answers. You could go for a defensive plan, or a long-term plan.
Yeah,
rather.
he's still just grinding him out. I like the Paladin's approach.
Yeah, I like this too.
Yeah.
It's very easy to see 4 mana and just think, okay, Shredder's fine. But you're losing opportunity cost of the hero power every turn.
Yeah. I think the Warrior got a little impatient first. Like, it was sort of like a battle, the grind battle of who's going to go aggressive first, and then the Warrior went aggressive for a second and got punished really hard.
Yep. We talked about how if you're paying a lot of attention to these slow turns from the Paladin, you know he doesn't have very much like proactive stuff. And it looks like Domdus is really afraid of Quartermaster, by the way. He's been aggressively removing these 1/1s, even when he has a Despite ready to whirlwind them off. And I'm not sure if we've seen a Quartermaster from this Paladin list, but for Control Paladin, I've seen a lot of lists with 1, and some lists with even 0 Quartermasters.
Yeah, for Control Paladin, I think it's pretty standard to have none.
Yeah,
that's why I was saying, like, Muster for Battle is pretty uncommon, because they don't run any Quartermasters to go with it.
The Muster for Battle itself is pretty good.
Against aggro, yeah.
But especially if you decide to remove that card, you are definitely not playing Quartermaster.
Yeah.
And
the funny thing is, in a lot of situations, is sort of like combo. Even if they don't have Quartermaster,
you feel like you need to play around it, right?
Exactly. All right, well, the grind continues.
Well, I don't like respecting Quartermaster that much, looking back upon it as well, because if your opponent's going to Quartermaster, they're most likely going to Muster and Hero Power as well, and that would make 5 3/3s, but only one of them would actually get the damage in immediately, and then you'd be able to Brawl and Axe off whatever comes out.
Yeah.
So it felt like a bit of an overly defensive play, which, you know, we've talked about how Domdus goes for very defensive lines a lot.
Yeah.
And that's been working for him, especially in open tournaments, in his group stage, that's been working. But when you run into this type of deck from Demigod, from a kind of a different style of play, where playing super defensive won't really work because your opponent's deck is just more defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like getting Tyrion out here. The sooner you can get Tyrion out, the sooner you can start generating value off that weapon. The only concern, I guess, would be Harrison Jones.
Yep.
Yeah.
And with the armor up, he could shield slam, or you could see something this turn like brawl into Harrison Jones. There is no Harrison Jones from Domdus' hand, so Demigod's going to be really relieved about that, because that's basically, like Firebet said, the only thing that punishes you here.
What now?
It's sort of similar to Gorehowl, the Ashbringer, because you know it's going to clear off like your next couple of big threats.
And Warrior doesn't have 1/1s or small stuff to really soak the hits.
Yeah.
Whereas Paladin does. Paladin's going to create a lot of threats, so you have to axe off one at a time. Whereas, you know, Shield Maiden and Belcher both die to that.
Yeah.
And
even something like Sylvanas, you can make it so that you play...
Just going to get owled and killed?
Yeah. The entire arsenal of mid-range creatures from the Warrior just goes right down to the Ashbringer.
Yeah, just going back to how Demigod has been really patient this game. His hand is just full of everything he's going to need to make sure he doesn't lose, and the game's going to go on for a long time. And if the game goes long, he looks to be the winner in this position.
Not bad outcome from the brawl.
Yeah. Tyrion almost wins, but Cruel Taskmaster too powerful for him.
Yeah, I like the brawl play. It's a lot better than like some weird shield slam play. It just didn't seem any good plays there.
So now as the Paladin, I think maybe you get off this first charge of the Ashbringer. You do have more weapons in your deck. You are scared of a Harrison off the top, and you start the reload. But
and you get rid of the armor, which is pretty key for shield slams.
There's a lot of heal in this deck from Demigod. He's got Anti-Keelbot, Guardian of Kings, Seal of Light, Lay on Hands.
Okay, so he's going to go with Boom before he Alexes. And this would be a situation where, as the Warrior, you might look at your hand and think, okay, my out here is I'm going to Alex him in the face, I'm going to hit him in the face, I'm going to equip an axe next turn, keep hitting him in the face, and hope to just grom him out.
It's going to smoke him down.
Yeah, I would like to see Alex there, so then you could try and get the Boombots to get some additional face damage. Because now if the Boombots hit face, they're actually accomplishing nothing.
Right. I think he's hoping there's no answer to the 7/7. Maybe it gets like Aldord, or maybe he can force out a clear already. That's not going to happen. And he was hoping potentially like I can Alex him and then hit him for 7.
He's just going to... There's no reason not to just swing into this thing. Is there?
There really isn't.
Yeah, you can just kill it with your...
You can actually just kill it with your face and the shielded mini-bot.
Yeah, then you just play Anti-Keelbot and just heal back up the damage.
Well, not yet.
No, you don't play Healbot.
Well, like, eventually.
After the Alex, after the
being
Alex.
Being at 22 versus being at 29
eventually
is very non-relevant.
Yeah, so I think that's the correct line, is just to take it to the face, and it looks like that's what he's going to do.
Yep. You can tell Demigod's really experienced with not only Paladin, but this matchup.
As long as he doesn't Healbot here.
Right. Well, I think so far he's played just great.
Yeah, I've been...
So I see no reason to believe he's like going to mess up here.
Yeah, I don't know. He keeps scaring me. He keeps mousing over the Healbot.
I think he's thinking about the Zombie Chow here, actually.
Yeah.
Pretty much thinking like, this thing's never going to get value.
And might as well just get it out
Let's try to get an axe charge off of it.
Sure.
I think, first of all, Sarah's a pretty big top deck.
Sarah's sort of the thing that you play after everything else in this matchup,
After everything's gone, yeah.
Neither equality has been taken out yet.
Yeah, nor Owl. If that's the worst answer you have as the Paladin, you're not unhappy.
Alright, well, what's he gonna get? Emerald Drake.
Emerald Drake's pretty good because, I mean, it dies to Big Game Hunter, but you can't Big Game Hunter literally everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just another big threat.
Right. And a 7/6, very much better than Laughing Sister here. And the situational spells, I mean, maybe a Sarah Awakens would have been really nice, but Emerald Drake you can't be unhappy with.
Kind of a clunky hand from Demigod.
Yeah, that Ysera off the top was actually really important because it gave him something to do that the Paladin feels bad about answering. If
Yeah.
you play Grom or Alex, that's a very easy big game hunter. If you play Alex, it's a very easy big game hunter and heal bot. And you give the Paladin stuff to play. With Ysera, you're looking at equality and then something more even.
Like Pitted and Guardian of Kings.
And the Drake is just going to give him another thing to play that the Paladin has to do something about.
Yeah, he can't Wild Pyromancer equality. Well, I guess he could just Wild Pyromancer equality and then develop a dude. But that doesn't feel very good.
If you hit this, I think you are healing.
Yeah,
because of cards like Ysera Awakens.
Or Nightmare.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
Ysera Awakens in a Grom.
40% chance you would be dead to Grom, so definitely has to respect that.
Yeah, so now he's got to play around 17 burst for the rest of the game, as long as that Emerald Drake stays in the hand.
Right.
So do you keep that in your hand, or do you play it as a threat? Do you keep it in the hand just so you force the Paladin to play inefficiently, or can you not afford to do that?
You really can't.
Here, it depends on your hand, right? If you have other things to do, but here he doesn't have much.
It's either that or it's Alex Straza here.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Alex.
Yeah. So he's going to go with the Drake. And the Drake just barely doesn't die to this Guardian, so I think this is going to get the big game hunter out, which is what he's looking to get here.
He held on to the Armor Smith.
But a second equality is actually really important.
Yeah. So now he has all the answers he needs for upcoming bombs.
Right.
Everything's like reactive, though.
That's
Everything that
Paladin.
he has is yeah.
Yeah, I think the Warrior is nearly out of stuff. He probably has maybe one, maybe two more big threats, and maybe something like a Shield Maiden. But yeah, I really like just consecrating here.
Yep.
Instead of big game huntering. He knows that's going to get value.
Then just hero power. You need to save the Wild Pyromancer because it's your activator for equality.
Yeah.
You need to save Big Game Hunter to kill some big game. You gotta save Owl for Sylvanas.
This is pretty perfect from Demigod because he realizes he's seen Domdus' games. He knows there's double brawl. He knows the only way really that he's definitely going to lose is if you commit too much, get brawled, and then he plays threats you can't answer.
Yeah. Or you use your removal inefficiently. Like if you use a big game hunter in a situation where you didn't have to.
Right, he's been taking damage to his face. He hasn't been very scared. He's just been trying to hold on to things as efficiently as possible, just in case the worst case stuff happens.
I'm so confused why Alex has not been coming down.
Yeah, you have to play it sometime.
Yeah, it's going to get Big Game Hunter to eventually.
I believe he's out of Cruel Taskmasters as well.
Yeah.
He used both to clear 1/1s very defensively. And you have to regret that now.
Yeah.
He might have Baron Geddon and might be trying to get BGH out with Baron Geddon in order to pave the way for Alex Straza.
It could be a possibility. I'm not sure though.
The nice thing from the Paladin point of view is now since we saw that Emerald Drake, you only have to play around 15. And that's if you think your opponent's Cruel Taskmaster, which I'm pretty sure both have been used.
We've seen there was one on the other side of the board that came from a pilot or shredder, so
I know he used one on a 1/1, and I know he cleared off another 1/1 earlier.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I'm going to assume both are gone. Who knows, though? Both players are allowed to take notes, so that is something he should probably have noted if it did happen.
He's thinking about whether or not he wants to True Silver since Domdus has been holding on to so many cards like that Brawl, the Shield Slam, and the Alex. And there's been so many opportunities for Alex to come down, he's maybe thinking, maybe that's the Harrison Jones.
Right, so imagine you True Silver here, and you enable the Harrison Jones. That's a 5/4. Strike. You no longer have a weapon to answer. How do you answer a 5/4?
Yeah, exactly. So it gives your opponent a turn, and then it also makes your turn really awkward.
It almost goes back to that Gorehowl turn earlier this game, where the Gorehowl was just good for Demigod because it gave him something to play.
So you don't want to enable a turn for your opponent, especially when you don't have to, when you see that they don't have anything going for them. They're just hero power passing.
Yeah. The Armor Smith is just eating off 1/1s, which to Demigod isn't a huge deal.
Yeah. So I expect him to just hero power pass again and stay with the same line. Since his opponent didn't have a play last turn, let's not give him a play by playing True Silver.
Right. I think the more there's no plays, the more it favors the Paladin.
Yeah. We're getting towards the bottom of these players' decks. Demigod has 7 cards remaining. On the next turn, Domdus has 6 cards remaining. So it's getting to the bottom. There's one of the Aldor Peacekeepers we see here. So that's actually a pretty good card because that sort of allows you to deal with just about anything. It's really flexible.
He's taking the risk with the True Silver here.
I'm pretty curious why, if you're going to do it now, you wouldn't have done it last turn. Maybe he feels if his opponent had Harrison Jones, he would have played it last turn. But that's kind of a strange read to have.
Yeah, it's an interesting read, but I guess it was right.
It worked out really well for him, yeah.
Oh, Sylvanas. Can't really play Sylvanas on this
Yeah,
board. It just
Sylvanas
gets
is
dealt with
awful
so
here.
easily.
Yeah.
And these executes are awful. They're just never activated.
Just all awful.
Because if this game goes to late game, it doesn't matter how many of the Paladin's minions really survived or stuck on the board.
Yeah.
Because his hero power makes infinite 1/1s.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you're Domdus here, you're just thinking, like, what is my win condition? Like, how do I kill this Paladin who has, he's going to have 7 cards in hand next turn.
Yeah, because even if, like, he sort of misses opportunity for an Alex if he wanted to play the aggressive route, because now it's given Demigod more time to draw into heal. It's also, now he has a True Silver Champion charge. So if he Alex draws and swings face and puts him down to 12, he can heal back up to 14 with the True Silver Swing, VGH, and then he doesn't have a way to kill him, even with Grom, Shield Slam, and the second Fiery War, or sorry, True Silver, or yeah, second Fiery War Axe Swing. So
yeah, he'd go to 14, and Domdus would have 13.
So now all he has to do right now is armor up, and that's
how do you win?
So beta.
I think his win condition is trying to force his opponent to extend into a brawl with the Alex. Because after the Alex, you know your opponent has to big game Hunter, and your opponent has to heal, which both result in him playing minions. So if you just keep armor passing, maybe he commits another minion to try and put some pressure on, then you Alex, and then you're able to activate brawl and maybe start chaining some things together.
Yeah, I think maybe had the second brawl not been a tournament card, like, already shown.
Yeah.
Like, maybe if Demigod was unaware, I think maybe it could have caught him off, but Demigod just seems aware of everything Domdus could do. He's even going to play around Harrison off the top.
Yeah, wow.
Thinking, I don't need this weapon. I'm good.
Yeah.
We're great.
He must have just counted up all the remaining threats and just thought, yeah, don't need that.
This does make Sludge Belcher slightly better, but I mean, Aldor is not bad on Sludge.
I don't know. I wish I had a True Silver right now.
But what if that was a Harrison Jones off the top?
Yeah.
Oh, Pilot Shredder is actually really great. It sticks in Brawl, like something comes out of it. It gives you something to play that's not one of your reactive cards.
Yeah. If he plays Piloted Shredder...
I don't think he will.
Well,
yeah, I don't think he will either. But if he does, then it's a pretty solid Brawl, and it's a pretty solid Alex into Brawl.
Yeah.
You're getting so close to the Warrior needing to do something.
Yeah.
And having been in this spot, it's kind of a spot where you're like, okay, let's say we just keep passing until the end of time, I win.
Yeah.
So why should I be the guy to do something? Yeah. I should make my opponent do it. And once he does stuff, like, your hand is just answers for days.
There's no weapons left.
Yeah, no weapons left.
Yeah. So I think maybe just play it, and that way if it can stick, you can Alex next turn, get in 8, put him to 7, and maybe he can't heal up efficiently enough.
That looks to be the game plan.
Yeah. The only possibility of a weapon being left is muster for battle.
Right, and you don't want to get that at this point.
Yeah, and I think we've sort of ruled it out. He's only got, what, 4 cards remaining?
Something like that, yeah.
And I don't think we've seen a muster for battle from Demigod at all.
Demigod's decks, at least this deck, his other deck is Freeze Mage and Control Warrior, I believe.
The Dragon Warrior.
Dragon Warrior. He's gone very anti-control, non-anti-aggro, and it was like a perfect read for this tournament.
Yeah.
Very few aggro players, almost all of them, all few of them got swept up in groups. I'd say Phone Tap is probably, the most aggressive lineup we have left with the Mech Shaman in it.
And that's his whole lineup isn't
right. His whole lineup isn't aggressive. He has a
Druid, Mech Shaman, and
mid-range Druid, mid-range Hunter, and a Mech Shaman.
Yeah.
So here as Demigod, what do you do? You're afraid of that Alex coming down. So
Yeah.
is Sylvanas too passive? Maybe you got to Aldor
I
with
think
it.
he might have to Aldor.
Yeah, and then you're kind of worried about other creatures.
Sylvanas sort of protects you against Brawl a tiny bit, because if your opponent wins, you get his creature. But
Or a 1/1.
yeah, or a 1/1 survive.
So you get a 1/1 and then the 1/2 slime.
He did wait a really long time to figure out what to do.
Well, he's not going to go with Sylvanas.
I might have Shreddered there, though.
Just to have something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Maybe you do need to, like, commit a little more. You do have still plenty of answers.
Brawl does not look like it's coming out.
Yeah, I really doubt it would. So 2 cards left for Domdus.
Domdus was expecting a lot more aggro. We saw the Zombie Chow in his Druid. We see the Unstable Ghoul in his Warrior.
Well, maybe a good choice for his groups, but moving onward today,
yeah,
and in this match especially,
we had that conversation
not gonna pan out.
about the difference between bringing a deck to win the groups and bringing decks to win the tournament.
I'd like to see Sylvanas come down here. We just saw he had to really inefficiently answer both of those 5-drops. Maybe
Yeah, I would have loved
Sylvanas.
Sylvanas here.
Yeah, pushes him to do that equality combo, and then you can start dropping your bombs.
Lay on Hands was like his 27th card.
Yeah, he's got 3 cards left.
So
he'll bottom out if he uses Lay on Hands.
yeah, really bad time to draw it. Warrior's fatiguing first now, though.
Yeah.
Which isn't too relevant. In fatigue matchups, it's not really who fatigues first, but rather who can stick
one
constantly attacking minion on the board after all is said and done.
Yeah. What's his last card?
Oh, Doomsayer comes out.
And that's awful for him. I mean, he can execute it, but
that's huge for the Paladin.
Do you feel good doing that? Do you feel good executing a Doomsayer?
I don't know.
Well, you got to think about how many activators you have for execute, too.
Right.
How many things can you actually execute?
Demigod actually looked distressed at first, but then Demigod realized, hey, maybe that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's really good. You might have to execute it.
We've already got our first Doomsayer.
Well,
this gets no damage, basically. Is he going to Alex himself later this game? Is that the plan now?
Try and win in fatigue that way? It could work.
Wow. That's
Emperor's pretty good.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Is the last card in Domdus's deck, is it Acolyte of Pain?
Is it?
It might be. We've only seen one.
I think it might be. That would be a terrible last card.
That's awful.
It's unplayable.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's not?
He's played both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He played the one and got True Silvered, and the other one he played as he Despited.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Whew. That would have been awful for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see what it is.
Shield
That's
block.
bad, too. That does nothing.
Yeah.
You can't play that. In fatigue matchup, shield block actually loses you health.
Yeah.
He's like execute here, and then maybe
And
Alex.
this is where the 1/1s just destroy you.
Oh,
and he's
man.
going to try and stop it like prematurely, but
Almost out of cards.
he has 3 threats to win the game. With 3 threats, a brawl, somehow he has to enable that execute.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. That's huge.
The bottom
That's one
of Demigod's deck was ridiculous.
That's one of the best cards in a fatigue matchup.
Yeah, you're going to gain 2 more tools to use to help you stabilize the board.
And it's one of the hardest things to account for as well. You're thinking, okay, my opponent has 8 cards. I have 7. I'm not in the greatest spot, but I think, if I play these cards perfectly, maybe I can come out on top. And then your opponent just plays a card that generates 2 more.
And
Yeah.
there were cards that weren't in their deck to
in
begin with.
their
It's a
deck.
32-card deck.
Yeah.
Right.
It helps
Crazy.
when you're using every card.
I wonder.
All right, here we
He's
go.
just going to play it, yeah.
There's a couple of useless cards that he could get.
Double Battle Rage.
Inner Rage, not the greatest.
Shield Block.
Shield
Battle
Slam.
Rage, Shield Block.
Slam. Wow, there's a lot of really bad ones.
Yeah.
There's some good ones, though.
All right, we'll see. Upgrade.
That's not bad.
Cleave is okay, too.
Wow.
They're playable.
He's going to owl that. I don't know about owling that.
Surprised by this play.
Well, we said there was no more weapons left in the deck,
Yeah.
but we didn't account for Nefarian.
Yeah, upgrade's basically just going to be 3 damage.
Yeah.
So that's not the biggest deal. You can use it. You could go Equality, Wild Pyromancer, Upgrade to save your Wild Pyromancer. And he's got 1 card left.
Cleave gets pretty big value
And
here.
Sludge Belcher
Belcher.
is just insane in Fatigue.
Oh, yeah. Look at this
And
Cleave.
Cleave!
Bottom 3 cards: Emperor Thorsan.
I don't see how you can't lose if you're the Paladin. at
Sludge
this point.
Belcher.
Yeah, Paladin's got him. As long as he doesn't overextend every creature in his hand onto the board.
And he's just going to upgrade and start swinging.
Hit him in the
Yeah,
face.
you might
for
as well.
1.
Get him.
Wow.
Hey, he didn't play Light's Justice in his deck, but he got one anyway.
Yeah. Everybody overrides the last charge of Light's Justice anyway. You
So
might as well only have 3.
The Owl's gone. So, I mean, Sylvanas going to challenge this.
I mean, it's just going to take a 1-2, though. He just trades into it.
He could do that. Could ignore it.
Could.
Like, why should you be the one to trade in?
It could
I guess
brawl,
brawl.
and, like, steal your Belcher would be a bummer.
All right.
Would be
Then
a
you
bummer.
could probably lose from an
Right.
unlosable spot.
Okay. So
yeah,
you
I think we should
you should
trade.
play as safe as possible if you're Demigod here.
Yeah, there's no reason to take a risk here.
From the choices that he's made so far this match, it seems like he has a lot of experience with the matchup. And is there any way that Domdus can win? What decisions does
What if
Demigod
you
have
played
to
your
make?
own Sylvanas? Then
then
you're
you-
not even weak to brawl. Because your Sylvanas goes off second. So whatever he takes...
But that's your last
he
threat.
could take your Sylvanas is the bad part.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So there's that.
There's risk. So this is... he's going to go with Alex.
He's going to Alex face.
Juicy up the brawl, maybe?
He can just trade everything in and then BGA.
Yeah.
So he decides to Alex now that he's fatiguing, thinking, okay, I want him to take more. I want this fatigue damage to be relevant, because
Yeah.
if you don't Alex him, every fatigue damage he takes down to 15 means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He should trade in some 1/1s.
Yeah, before the equality.
Well, it doesn't matter how
Yeah.
you do it, actually.
They get taken either way.
And actually, this way he gets to weapon one off if he wants to. He does only have 8 healing.
Yeah, 8 is not much in fatigue. But Dom just doesn't have a way to activate the Grom.
To battle!
Yeah.
To battle!
So he's going to weapon off whatever gets stolen. And it's not the taunt, which is pretty important.
For justice!
Yeah.
He's going to play the heal bot and only the heal bot, I think.
Yeah. And it seems weird taking it at free damage like that, but if he did it differently, he would have had to trade in more of his creatures. And actually preserving the 1/1s is really important.
And if this gets the brawl, then I don't see how Demigod loses. But if it doesn't get the brawl, how does Demigod lose? Because 2 of the cards in Domdus' hand are absolutely useless. Maybe he should have executed that Doomsayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He needs an activator for this Grom to even have a chance.
Worst brawl result as well. The 3/3 comes out of it, so...
Well, like we said, the Cruel Task were thrown out on 1/1s in fear of Quartermaster, which wasn't in the deck.
Yeah, it wasn't good. Otherwise, he would win this game if he had a Cruel Task.
Yeah, it looks like it pretty much mattered. He
Yeah.
could have gone for much more aggressive lines in this late game.
And now he can just throw all his creatures out, set up for the kill next turn.
Just saving a big game hunter, thinking, okay,
yeah.
if somehow, I get grommed and this board gets cleared,
Yeah.
I can big game hunter it, and that's game.
Even if he had the Cruel Taskmaster, it's only 12, and then there's 4 fatigue, so the Paladin would live at 1 health.
But he could have taken, I think, more aggressive lines. this
All
game.
right. Alex earlier delivered more weapon damage to the face, sort of thing.
Well, that was a super intense game, but Demigod with the Paladin is going to tie it up 1-1.
Yeah, Demigod, that match was essentially a long time of him just asserting his dominance.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in control the whole game.
Right.
Yeah. And you guys have been in these situations before. Does that play into your mindset at all? You play a super long, a super intense game, and you lose. Like, does that affect you mentally?
If you feel you made a mistake, it'll really get you. So if Domdus is thinking, why did I play around Quartermaster? Like, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Then it really gets you. Like, I've played fatigue games that I've messed up at the very, very end, and it hurts. But if you think you played fine and that it was mostly the matchup that got you, and you're basically just seeing, can I win? It's not a huge deal. You're still 1-1. Feeling all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you kind of have to take it. You can't dread on, like, small little mistakes, because those matchups, one little mistake, that's it. And there's so many turns, so many opportunities for something. Hindsight's always 20/20. So you just got to let it go, move on to the next game, and just forget about it, and just say, yeah, it's a bad matchup. I wasn't supposed to win that. Now, how am I going to win on paper here?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
surprisingly, Paladin has, I believe, the highest win rate out of any class in the tournament.
Would not surprise me. Paladin has been very dominant, lining up into some really great matchups. We didn't see as much Patron as we expected, I think. Lots of Control Warrior, which is another good matchup. Good against Druid. Pretty good against Handlock.
Yeah.
Really great against these mid-range hunters. Like, Paladin might be the deck of the tournament, which is pretty surprising to say.
All right, well, here's the tough part for Domdus is going to be finding a win with that Handlock. We said it earlier. That's sort of the deck that he needs to come out on top with.
Well, if he can get a win with that Handlock, getting a win with Control Warrior against Freeze Mage, not the toughest thing in the world.
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
It made the matchup a bit better for Freeze Mage with the inclusion of the Emperor Thorsan. They can do things that they could never do in the past.
Yeah. Regardless of the matchups we get for the rest of this match, this is going to be a long, grindy match.
Yeah.
We have 4 control decks left. We started out with 5 and a Druid. And Druid's gone. Paladin's gone. It's 2 Control Warriors, a Handlock, and a Freeze Mage now.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Time to grind.
He's got the shield block and the shield slam, so he has an answer to the first threat, which is really, really, really important in this matchup.
Yep.
Also has the Dragon as the activator for the Blackwing Corruptor. Not sure how great that's going to be in the matchup against Handlock, but you know.
TJ, you seem really excited about these dragons.
I love dragons.
Yeah.
And I love Warrior.
Okay. So you love Dragon Warrior.
No. I only love them separately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, not too much happening.
Yeah. This is a matchup that a lot of people say it depends on how you built your deck before the match even started. Depends who's favored. Things like double Big Game Hunter in the Warrior list can help a lot, but I don't think a lot of people are really on that.
Yeah.
Demigod specifically said his decks counter Handlock.
Yeah, it's interesting that he didn't choose to armor up on turn 3 there. He played the Acolyte instead. If he had armored up, then he could shield block,
He'd
shield
be
slam
able
the
to
Drake.
shield block, shield slam, yep.
Yeah, killing the first threat's usually a really big deal. Now that Drake's going to be able to knock off all of his armor and
Yeah.
get rid of the threat of shield block, shield slam. Wow.
Yeah, he doesn't have a great way to enable execute. You don't feel great trading in your Acolyte.
But at least he has a way to...
Yeah, execute's definitely
threats.
a good draw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind this at all. Preserves 2 armor, which isn't bad.
That 2 armor is going to be super important
Oh,
over
man.
the next couple of
so we
turns.
see Nefarian and Lord Jaraxxus.
Yeah. Since he has that 2 armor, he can shield block, armor, coin, shield slam, kill a giant.
TJ, what would you say the odds are that Jaraxxus gets sacrificial pact in this game?
Oh, man.
Is it like 14% or something?
Is it that high? Wow.
You see that? No, maybe it's less. Maybe
I'm
it's like
hyped now.
8.
I want to see it.
Someone
Firebat just throwing out random numbers.
Yeah, I'm just
14, maybe 8. Could be 6.5.
It sounds like you with your Mishas. You're like, yeah, there were 8. You know, maybe 15.
Someone should tweet at the show.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
percent chance for sack pack to
At
happen.
ESL Hearthstone, use the hashtag HLS if you know the percentage of sacrificial pact from Nefarian. Or if you want to do the math real quick.
Smooth transition there. So, yeah, the Handlock actually the one answering threats right now. But that works in the Warriors' favor. I mean, I don't think Demigod has anything like Domdus' Double Brawl, which would be maybe good in this matchup.
Yeah.
Wow, lots of bombs drawn already by the Control Warrior.
Yeah.
So this matchup is sort of just the Warrior playing reactively for most of the game.
Yeah, reactively usually until they start that big bomb train, and then
Yeah,
the roles kind of reverse.
He has every bomb in his deck, I think.
Yeah, so you can just play them sort of in order, and then the Handlock's forced to kill every single one because they're afraid of just getting Grom bursted
Right.
down if they leave any of them alive.
He's missing Dr. Boom, which I would assume he plays.
He's got a lot of huge threats. That's one thing about Dragon. You said a lot of times they just change around the anatomy of the back end of their deck, like the high drops.
Yeah.
But it makes it so it feels like they just have so many powerful creatures.
Yeah, I mean, there's not even a big game hunter in the Handlock's hand yet.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him to start reacting to these threats, especially since he didn't initiate his own threat this turn. So Demigod's free to just drop Barongeddon or
yeah, I think
do whatever.
It's interesting because Alex dropping your opponent to 15 does enable those Moltons, enables Molten Shadow Flame, stuff like that. So it's not something people are thrilled to do in this matchup.
So Domdus just tapped with 9 cards, which means he had to play the Sunfear Protector. Do you agree with putting that pressure out and that wall out early, or do you really need those Sunfear Protectors for later on, like poster access to guard against Grom?
I think he really wanted to just free up his hand because he has no threats.
Yeah, he's got to find
he needs
some
to
threats.
tap.
Yeah, he has to.
He was at 10 cards. That's why he played it.
Well, yeah, he tapped purposefully, knowing that he was going to have 10 cards.
Well, you
and
need to
have
keep
play
tapping.
Sunfear.
You have to draw.
Yeah.
And you have to get in Molten Giant range, because the Warrior can just get into a position where they can control your Molten Giants, basically. They never have to put you in range to play them before they can just set up to kill you.
Yeah, sort of similar to Druid, who can just, like, build up a board, float you at 19 or something health, and then eventually draw into combo and kill you.
Yeah.
I got this.
And the Harrison Jones, Demigod just threw that out. Says, I'm not going to Harrison your Draxus. You're never going to get to play that this match. And even if you do, I'll have Sacrificial Pact.
Hopefully.
Oh, I'll be so happy if that happens, CJ.
Yeah, I like just getting the Harrison out there because you have so many high-quality bombs in your hand, and you're just looking to bomb train.
Super weak turn. And no big game hunter.
Yeah.
You know, no removal.
I would not be
surprised. If you just
surprised.
coined out an 8/8, it'd be great.
Yeah.
You can't really coin out Nefarian here, else you skip your next draw.
Yeah. You play Ysera, though. It's not bad.
Yeah. Coining Ysera here is insane.
Yeah. Siphon Soul's not really too common in Handlock at the moment.
Your opponent can't Sylvanas Shadow Flame yet.
I believe we only have one player who's running Handlock in the tournament with Siphon Soul, and it's Roger.
Okay.
I believe Trump used to run one, and
does he?
I don't know if I saw it this tournament, but yeah.
We know for sure that
Roger
one player.
definitely has Siphon Soul. So
Yeah.
we will see a coin 9-drop.
I imagine it's Ysera.
Ysera looks to be the best one. This is the turn before Sylvanas Shadow Flame. It's only dead, like you said, to Siphon Soul. If Ysera lives multiple turns against Handlock, you get so many dream cards that your kill range becomes insane. They can't play around 2 Nightmares.
Yeah.
And Nightmare and Awakens are like the best here.
Oh,
and that's
Awakens, wow.
Yeah.
That makes it so that post Draxus, the turn that you play Draxus,
you die.
Yeah.
And like that Harrison Jones, he basically played that very confident that his opponent wouldn't be able to get a Draxus off. He was right.
Yeah.
Draxus
So now,
very likely won't be coming down this game.
What are the chances that he gets Sacrificial Pact from Nefarian, but doesn't even have to use it?
Oh, man. No, you use it if you have that chance.
Yeah.
But the problem with Nefarian is actually his hand is so restricted.
Yeah.
He's going to keep getting dream cards every
He keeps
turn.
getting 2 draws a turn with Ysera.
And his opponent hasn't played any threats yet for him to react to, so that's why he's still holding on to so many cards.
Yeah, even if he wanted to clear that Ysera, he couldn't. Or he could if he Shadow Flamed the 8/8 and traded everything.
Yeah, that's just not optimal.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
But next turn, Sylvanas Shadow Flame is going to be huge.
Yeah, he's going to try and take it next turn, I think. And he might not even silence.
A 4/12 is still good to steal.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if he plays another big threat,
I
but
wonder if this is just going to get the Awakens. Probably not, but
I mean, you could Awakens and trade.
you can always wait on the Awakens.
you Wiggins, you also put him at 15 now. Do you really want to put him that
You
low?
don't really want to put him that
Well,
low.
you could put him at 15 with the Alex, and then it sort of plays around. It plays around Sylvanas Shadow Flame, because if he then Sylvanas Shadow Flames, you kill him with Grom Awakens.
Yeah, if you put him
Whoa,
at 15
I like
with
that.
Alex, you actually set up lethal next turn if he doesn't add more taunts or heal. And how good do you feel putting up another taunt or healing when you already have some up? Then you're just playing in a brawl, which he has.
Yeah, I would have liked to see that, but
I think that play would have been really sick. Yeah. But kind of hard to think about that.
Yeah.
Especially when we know Sylvanas Shadow Flame is basically what he wants to do.
yeah. It's always something that's sort of in the back of your mind, but it doesn't happen too often.
He could just taunt up a Sylvanas as well.
But just play Dr. Boom.
Or just play Dr. Boom.
The 411's pretty threatening, but it's silenced now. It's not giving him dream cards every turn.
That'd be one off lethal.
Yeah, one.
If he played Boom.
That's pretty close.
If he tap Boomed,
he's
game's
dead.
over.
Yeah.
He has 10 in hand now, so I'm not going to tap.
So many possibilities.
Yeah.
And what we thought would be a really long game might end around the turn 12 mark.
So it's one off lethal as long as if he played Dr. Boom, as long as he would trade into the Armor Smith.
Oh
no, because it would kill the Armor Smith would be killed by Ysera Awake.
Yep.
So it looks like he
Thinking about Sylvanas, thinking about Boom.
It's a tough situation.
Yeah.
Thinking about Molten Giant for 10.
That's interesting. Just getting it out of your hand.
Okay. That's really interesting, actually.
I do like killing the Armor Smith.
So he's 1 damage off lethal. I don't think any top deck would have really done it because the main constraint is mana.
Yeah, just Inner Rage, I guess, if he runs it, but he most likely does not. It's very uncommon in Control Warrior.
Yeah, no reason to believe he runs that. And a Shield Slam on the 8/8 and maybe like an Ethereum, or again, like we talked about, Alexstrasza seems really good here.
Yeah, setting up an 8/8 and setting up to threaten lethal.
Yeah, because
really good.
You talk about the play, the Sylvanas Shadowflame, then he's just dead.
Mm-hmm.
But Baron Geddon might be what he decides. You could Baron Geddon, axe off the 4/5, and Shield Slam the 8/8.
It's not bad. Sets up lethal as well.
Clears everything. Leaves a 4/9 and a 7/5.
Yeah.
Puts your opponent at 18. You have an axe in play. That's 18. 15 from hand, 3 from the axe.
I think he might be having second thoughts here because he might see the Alexstrasza.
There's a lot of ways to set up lethal here.
Yeah.
That all involve removing your opponent's 4.
He's going to get the play that he knows he's going to do out of the way first, which is Shield Slam the Giant. That's an automatic.
That's almost always happening here.
Yeah.
Oh, no Nefarian. Interesting, he's going to...
Preserve his armor.
Yeah.
He's used both Shield Slams already.
Now it's a little weaker to something like a Shadow Flame on something, but he knows, of course, that his opponent doesn't heal or put up a more than 5 health taunt and clear his board, he's dead.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to do.
This is basically an impossible situation for Domdus, and he doesn't even know it. I mean, you can only assume that's either a Nightmare, a Dream, or a Ysera Awakens at this point, all of which are terrible for you, but Ysera Awakens might be the worst one.
Mm-hmm.
At a quick glance, you have to say, can I even afford to play around it? Like, can Ysera Awakens the possibility of it? He has 1 Dream card. Can I even afford to play around it? And the answer is no. So he just has to sort of try and play optimally around the natural warrior things as much as possible. But it, like you said,
You probably
in a possible
hope it's
situation.
Dream. That's probably like your realistic hope.
Well, Dream can still kind of be bad in some situations just because you can get through a taunt that way.
I don't think there's any way he lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sylvanas Shadowflame doesn't do it. Doesn't even steal anything. It just kills everything.
Yeah, if you Healbot Argus, maybe.
No, the Baron Geddon connects for 9 then, so that negates all the healing.
No, because you awakens and it kills it. It only connects for 7, but
Well, no,
I
you
think
just
that'd still
kill
be
it.
enough.
You kill it with Ysera, and then oh yeah, the awakens kills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd still be enough.
All right. Well,
that's gonna do it if he
would have lived
sees
by
it,
1.
Which I think he intentionally set this up, so I'm pretty sure he sees it. And that'll do it. Demigod gonna take a 2-1 lead against this handlock deck. He said he countered, trying to prove it now.
It looked pretty promising that he countered handlock.
Yeah.
That looked very dominant.
He had a pretty insane draw, had all of his top end.
And his opponent
just started going for it.
His opponent had no way to react to that top end. He
Yeah.
needed a big game hunter or at least something to slow it down.
All right, well, Demigod takes a 2-1 lead in the series. Of course, the winner of this match moves on to the semifinals. They will face the winner of Roger versus Phone Tap, I do believe.
Yeah.
So he's only got Freeze Mage left, Demigod does.
Yeah, I think if you're Domdus here, you play your Warrior.
Yeah, just get the win with that, make it 2-2.
That way, going into game 5, there's just more pressure on your opponent, knowing if I lose, I'm out.
That's a matchup too where like you can easily make a mistake.
Right.
Like as the freeze mage, maybe you overcommit too much burn, and then they heal up and you're done.
You just like right now, Demigod feeling really great off 2 wins. Put him in a worse state of mind, you know, and try to rattle him up, make it 2-2. We know a lot of players that have been leading, and then it goes to a tie. You know, suddenly it's like, oh, not so good anymore.
Yeah.
But either way, Warrior very likely to grab a win. He's going to go with it first. I like this.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a long match. Very unfavored for Demigod. It is winnable, though.
Yeah, definitely winnable. Probably going to see more interesting things from the freeze mage side as they try and figure out the puzzle of how to win, how do I set up lethal.
Right.
And then from the Warrior side, we're just going to see armor pass.
Yeah, I played this matchup twice at the previous season LAN, and it was probably around 30 minutes each match. A lot of people told me it was not very fun to watch. But I lost both times.
We're just really hyping up this audience and everybody watching. They're just like, yeah, wow, I'm ready.
Freeze mage versus Warrior, my favorite.
Yeah. Chalky told me it's boring and horrible. Yes!
Well, Armor Smith is a good card.
Better late game.
Better late game, though. But there's not a lot of whirlwinds.
Yeah, it's true.
There is Deathbite.
You don't need the whirlwinds, though, because your opponent does the whirlwinds for you by killing your whole board at once or blizzarding. Or
Well, the start for the mage is okay. You got 1 terrible card, 2 okay ones.
Yeah.
You do need a lot of early pressure. And
1 terrible card, 2 okay ones. You got 4 cards.
Frost
only
Nova's
3.
pretty bad, too. Yeah, I was just counting his initial hands.
Oh, okay.
He threw the Frost Nova off the top.
I was like, you're a Hearthstone player. You can count. I know this.
This is one of those.
I'm actually known for my basic addition skills up to 30. Usually in multiples of 2.
Yeah, that's what people always say when Chalky comes second. Chalky did great at adding basic numbers.
Yeah, really good at that.
That Hunter hero power button.
And they're the most important cards in the matchup.
Yeah.
Wow, he's got a chance.
Now what he actually wants to draw is Frostbolts and Ice Lances.
Ice Lances. Ice Lances in particular, because it makes him down to 0 mana. So that's effectively, you're turning those 0 mana spells into fireballs. You need that fireball draw engine in order to win this matchup, because you need an absurd amount of damage to take the Warrior down from the life gain that they have.
And I mean, one of the ways you can win this is the Warrior not having removal for either of those cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Antonidas is a 5/7.
Yeah.
He doesn't just die on his own after a turn.
Yeah, Frost Nova is really good, helping to protect him a little bit. But I'd be kind of surprised to see Emperor come down exactly on 6 with this hand. Like,
Well, I think he'll ping his Acolyte.
Yeah. But
And if he draws into 1 or 2 combo pieces, maybe he feels ambitious.
I don't know, man. This is definitely a matchup where you can be as patient as you want, pretty much. You can wait a solid 10 turns before going off with that Emperor to reduce the cost of your hand.
46 health with both Ice Barriers against a Control Warrior.
Yep.
Yeah, like Emperor would just die on board here.
Yep.
So one of the ways you lose this matchup as Warrior is if you let the early creatures, like the Mad Scientists and potentially Loot Hoarders, hit you for a lot early on.
Well, one of the important things was Domdus killed off that Mad Scientist with an axe.
Yeah.
And he took the damage. He went from 30 to 28, not from 32 to 30.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
The armor is what really counts. The health really doesn't matter.
Yeah. So if you don't have those weapons early on and the Freeze Mage can constantly chip off the armor that you have early game, that's the important thing.
What do you think about trying to do a Frost Nova Doomsayer into an Emperor here?
I like that a lot, and worst case, I think it's going to get out some removal.
Yeah, and then maybe they don't have the removal for Antonidas after that?
Yeah, if you see no removal on Doomsayer, you're definitely at least feeling a little more ambitious and throwing out some cards and saying, hope you have it.
Yeah, but is this hand really strong enough to support going off with Antonidas?
It's not strong.
Yeah, it's not very good.
There's no cheap spells, really.
Yeah.
Blood Mage could be good, costing 1 mana.
Right, I mean, I think you could manage to go Mad Scientist, Blood Mage, and maybe like a ping, and then try to Frost Nova Doomsayer next turn.
Yeah, I think I would like that a little bit more. The more mana you have with Emperor or with Antonidas, the better.
Yeah.
And the better cards you have.
I think you're definitely going to Emperor before you Antonidas this game.
Yeah, well, every Freeze Mage game, right?
So you're going to have to get the Emperor down, see if they have the removal for that. Get the Antonidas down.
In order to bring Freeze Mage to a competition like this, you have to be super confident in it.
Yeah. You have to be very confident in your ability to play the deck. You need to know all the matchups, what you're trying to do. And like we said, looking for removal, and he doesn't have it.
No removal.
So this is going to resolve. I'll leave him with a 1-2. And really important, the Armor Smith, like we talked about, it's better late game. It dies without giving armor here.
So it only generated 1 armor. No, 2 armor, I think. Because the Cool Taskmaster also traded into the Acolyte.
Yeah, 2 armor.
Wow.
That armor Smith. That is...
He's not playing Emperor here on the empty board.
Yeah, and this is going to get punished, I think, by just Boom.
Yeah, definitely.
Because Boom on board challenges what you have, and you don't have a way to remove it. So I might have liked, even though your hand's really mediocre, maybe you just, you know, go for it anyway. And we know he doesn't have a second ice barrier.
Yeah. Domdus, yeah. And so Domdus just sees that he didn't pull another secret out, so either his hand is chock full of secrets, which we see one in, or of course doesn't run the double ice barrier.
Yeah, he only runs 1 ice barrier.
Yeah.
We found that out earlier in the series when it was the mystery of what cards are in this Freeze Mage deck.
We thought he didn't run Antonidas for a long time.
He just was never drawing it.
Yeah.
And you might have to fireball the Boom here.
Next turn, you could Arcane Intellect, then Emperor Thorsan.
You could. You can kill off a Boombot and the Dr. Boom this turn.
Yeah.
It's just going to get worse, though. Ysera is actually pretty good against Freeze Mage because they really don't have an answer to it in their deck.
Yeah, he can coin that out.
I've gotten a Ysera Faceless against me when I played Freeze Mage. Feel pretty bad after that.
Yeah.
There's 2 Ice Lances. We talked about how those are really important.
Yeah, Thalnos as well is pretty important with Emperor. Like, you can stack in a lot of damage.
2. Okay. Pretty average bombs. Slightly above average. And Ysera's just going to come down and...
Yeah, how do you deal with that?
Talked about just armor passing a lot, but one of the other ways to just win this matchup is just put out pressure like this.
Yeah.
Where how is the mage going to kill you and keep your board controlled?
Lots of Kona Colds.
Yeah, I think we just have to see Emperor come down.
And
you
then,
have to start making your own push.
Yeah, exactly. If your opponent's not going to armor and they're going to try and pressure you, you got to be like...
You have to counter push,
Yeah, race accepted.
Then...
You are pretty happy that they're only at 8 armor. There's that.
Yeah, it's not the worst. You don't have Alex yet, but she's coming.
Need to throw out an Ice Lance here to try and block some damage?
No.
No.
You save it for the
that needs to turn into a
Antonidas,
fireball, yeah.
and you're going to be Cone of Colding. I might have even liked to ping the Boom. I don't know, though. Maybe it'll trade in your guy, but I could see something like Antonidas, Cone of Cold, and then even just Ice Lancing the minions to try and kill them.
Wow, that's going to do some armor damage.
Whoa.
He got 5 from that, and he's only at 32. Like, imagine if there was just an Alex's turn. You'd be at 19. You'd have only 7 armor gain from hand.
He actually has a lot of damage. He can freeze this turn and then
right
draw so many. He actually can
There
do...
is an Execute, so he will have an answer. And there's
Whoa.
Alex.
There's Alex Draza. So you can freeze
you
this
might have
turn,
to do this first. He's going to think about it for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely the exciting part of the match.
Yeah, we got an exciting match from this. Like, Domdus is not playing around. We're going for it.
All right, he's going to chip off the armor here.
Chip off the armor rather than killing the Boom. He's saying, like Firebot said, race accepted.
Yeah.
Let's race.
So next turn, he won't get his block
Can he enable
buff.
the Execute?
No.
He has no way to enable it.
Wow.
No way. So that Antonidas might stick.
He can't even Nightmare because it won't die.
Nightmare doesn't kill it instantly, yeah.
No.
Yeah. That's not good for him.
Do you think you have to...
And there's no coin to go like Sylvanas Coin Brawl.
Do you have to brawl anyway?
You might.
Yeah.
He might not want to, though.
Oh, he can Unstable
He can
Ghoul
Unstable
Brawl?
Ghoul Brawl, and that would guarantee he can at least execute.
Yeah. But then he
just
gets rid of his whole board, too, yeah.
And you're getting no armor.
Wow. This might be one of those those stories that we heard.
Yeah, or Freeze Mage is able to take it against Control Warrior.
Yeah.
We've seen this a lot in tournaments.
The Emperor Thorson is what sort of unlocks the potential for Freeze Mage. People used to consider, it was like 99% Warrior favored in this matchup. And then all of a sudden,
Emperor
Thorson
enabled
came.
a crazy turn this game. Look
Yeah.
at what he did last turn.
Yeah.
That's 15 mana, I think. Yeah, 15 mana
mana.
of stuff.
Wow. Yeah, he's going to go with the Brawl.
So he goes for the absolute safest play, but like we said, he's just going to Alex him. Blood Mage lives, which is bad for him, but
wow.
All right. He's
not going to armor.
Laughing Sister instead of armor pressure to try and set up lethal.
But he hasn't set up lethal, though.
Yeah, he can't Nightmare the Laughing Sister, so it doesn't set up lethal.
So now he just Alex's. He's got second ice
It
block.
enables the execute, though.
It enables execute.
I think that's really important, is that he actually had no way to kill this 8/8 if he didn't play Laughing Sister.
Now we sort of flip the switch. Is there any way Domdus can
Is there any way
find
he
his way
wins?
back? Yeah.
Yeah.
Second
This
ice
is
block
crazy.
already. Fireballs. He has antique healbot as well to bring himself even further out of that range for him to pop the block.
He's at 22, but that's 40 damage in Demigod's hand. 40.
Jockey, I'd say that's a lot of damage.
That's enough. And he can kill him next turn, but he's got a 2-mana ice block.
Do you just
Frost
Fire Blast this
Nova.
turn while you can?
No, because the fireballs are so good.
Yeah, so efficient.
And this is just lethal if he doesn't draw an armor gain card. Next turn, he can't armor up past 13.
Wow.
He needs an armor gain card to live. And that's not it.
Whoa.
That's game.
Dead.
Oh
Freeze
my
Mage gonna
goodness.
take it.
Demigod doesn't even have to counter the handlock. He wins Freeze Mage versus Warrior. You're going to take the set 3-1.
That's so funny. He's like, I brought my lineup to counter handlock, and then most of the series that he's won, he's just dodged handlock.
Yeah, and kind of like one of the stories we really just haven't talked about enough is Demigod hasn't dropped a game. Or a match, rather.
A match, yeah, a match.
Right, he's been dominating this tournament.
Yeah.
Wow, really impressive play.
And he's going to see nothing happen.
He's got to know that there's two fireballs in the hand. He saw two
He
come out from
knows
that.
there's the fireballs.
Already throws
He
out.
can't help but smile here.
Yeah, throws out the well played, and Demigod is going to be the first player moving on to the semifinals. Very well played.
Just a little bit of a look of relief from him.
Yeah.
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 I feel bad for the people that left to go do something because you said it was going to be boring, and they missed this whole thing.
30 minutes. This is like a what? 10-minute
Yeah,
match?
10 minutes. So they just left to go to the bathroom, do whatever.
Yeah.
They come back expecting for it to be halfway over, and it's done.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the draws that make that matchup possible, but also just what he had to do with them. And those Kona Colds actually
they
came
did-
up huge.
It was huge with the Antonitis there.
And
Made
that's
it unkillable.
a tech choice he's made. He put in 2 Cone of Colds, only 1 Blizzard, 2 Frost Novas, and abused all the cheap freezes that game.
Yeah. So Demigod will move on to the semifinals. He will face the winner of Roger versus Phone Tap, I believe. We got to talk a little bit about Domdus, though. He was one of the unknown players. He had a decent run. He came out second in his group on day 1. He casted a little bit. Really great guy, and he cannot be upset about where he finished in this tournament.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Top 8 is nothing to scoff at, especially when you consider all the processes you have to go through to get here. All the qualification, the open brackets, all of that
Domdus
stuff.
qualified for a week of ESL. He lost there, went to the Rim tournament, lost there, and then actually qualified through the open tournament by going 5-0 there.
Yeah, so it's been a long road, a lot of work, and it paid off for him.
Really
I
put
think.
him on the map.
Yeah, he's a real player now.
Yeah.
Known player.
Yeah.
He's real the whole time. He wasn't fake. And then
Great, awesome. he wasn't a robot after all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Demigod won this match, 3-0 in this tournament. Really a dark horse to take this.
Yeah. So now the first match that he's going to lose would have to be the one that would knock him out of the tournament.
Yep.
Which is pretty crazy.
From here on out, all knockout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He comes from Hawaii. This sort of, not self-proclaimed, I sort of said that he was the best player in Hawaii. He said it as well in one of his interviews. But we actually do have Frodan standing by on stage with our winner, Demigod.
That's right. The best player from Hawaii standing right next to me, Demigod. You won a pretty difficult matchup. Freeze Mage versus Warrior win is not always what you see every day. In fact, it's kind of like finding a four-leaf clover. So how did you do that?
I actually, in the open qualifiers, I defeated like 2 control warriors with my Freeze Mage. It's really weird, but him hitting my Emperor with the Gorehowl really made me like, yeah, I got this, man. Because his armor is like, because everyone does that. They hit, like, it's like a bait or something. Like, they want to kill the Emperor not with their minions, so they can just keep hitting me with their minions. So after I got his armor down, I knew that I could get that win because I was saving my Emperor for the Archmage combos to burst him down in the end.
You know, people don't really account for that as part of their strategy, being able to use Freeze Mage to beat the Warrior. So how did you prepare specifically for Domdus? Was it being able to play according to your plan at all?
I thought he was going to queue Warrior first. So when I saw the Druid, I was kind of sad, to be honest. I was like, I lost this match. But I knew that my Warrior could handle his handlock, and I eventually pulled it off. I don't know, like, handlock is supposed to defeat Warrior, but I guess I had insane draw. I had like as much cards as him, so I guess that's what happens.
All right, and now you're in the semifinals. You're guaranteed a pretty good chunk of change, at least $2,200, which is great. And now you also have a good amount of points. Your next opponent will be Roger or Phone Tap. How do you think that outcome will be, and how do you think your chances are rolling all the way to potentially to the finals?
I didn't even expect I would be in the semifinals. I'll wreck them both, even. I gotta thank my teammate, LBYS, because he told me to put the corner codes in my deck. So that actually helped me out during the Warrior matchup.
Yeah, it did. Hopefully it'll continue to help you out in the future matches. Congratulations to Demigod as he advances to the semifinals, our first top 4 contestant, as we head over to the desk and get ready to see who is going to join him in the semifinal match.